right, we're back. All right, next up is Joel Sangerman, who hails from Las Vegas, Nevada. Hi, Joel.
Hey, Ron, how are you?
Are you in Vegas today?
I'm just outside of Vegas in Henderson, Nevada.
Oh,
Off the
okay.
strip, away from the sex, drugs, and rock and roll where I belong.
All right.
What's best for me, at least.
So, Joel, you are the definition of a pretty part-time real estate investor with a full-time job. Is that correct?
That's accurate, yep.
Okay. You are in the medical field right now. Why don't you tell people what you're doing right now?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's the perfect timing, and no one can really go to healthcare facilities without a lot of hassle. So what we're doing is we're developing prescription-grade, prescription-strength digital applications, just like the kinds of apps that you have on your phone, but they'll actually be prescribed by doctors to treat disease. So our lead candidate is a product for symptoms of depression. And anyone who has adolescents who need psychiatric care, they know how difficult it is. So having an opportunity to actually do a call like this with a healthcare professional offers a lot of value into the market. So I've been doing that for the last couple of years. To be quite candid, I'm going to be pivoting because all of my equity is vested, and I'm going to take more of an advisory role with that company because I'm not trying to go back to New York City right now.
I don't blame you.
That's the best place to be.
So you know what? I just happened to have a virtual appointment with my doctor in the morning. I've already had one. So basically, he made me go get some tests. Now we're just going to get on the phone and discuss the test. He didn't even need to see me.
No venereal disease, hopefully.
All right. So tell us what's going on in your real estate world right now.
Well, one of the reasons that I want to pivot, in addition to what's going on in New York City, is I really think that we are about to have one of the greatest real estate opportunities we've ever seen. And I include 2009, 2010 in that mix. Properties were really decimated as far as value, and those who came in and used your strategies to pick up properties. Now, you did have to do a lot of short sales because there wasn't a lot of equity during that time, but those who came in and picked up those properties have seen a tripling of the values of those properties, and you can hold them, and or you could have sold them and made money either way. So I'm thinking we're going to be in a situation where quite a lot of people aren't able to make their payments, and the alternative that we present to sellers is going to be quite attractive. So I'm positioning myself to do that really all over the country and not just in Vegas.
Ah, I see. So were you watching Sophia a while ago?
I really love to watch Sophia. I know Sophia, but I actually did not see what she had to say.
Well, that's what she's doing. She's in 6 different states.
Good for her.
Operating virtually.
That's fantastic.
You know, virtual means something different than it did 2 months ago. Right now.
Virtual means real.
Virtual. Yeah. And we kind of liking it around here. Got the whole building to myself. Ain't got anybody bugging me except these 2 guys and Debbie, that is. No noise, and here we are still operating. So we proved that we can. So
yeah, I don't think anything really replaces the camaraderie that you get in a live event. There's a lot of networking that goes on there that's important to establishing the business, and it's great to see you in person. But certainly you can transition to this kind of a role and offer a lot more virtual training to help a lot more people. And
yeah, nothing to replace live, that's for sure. All right, so go ahead. All right. So Joel, our listeners probably need to know, some of them have heard about that big multi-million-dollar deal you and I did out in Vegas.
Yeah.
And you're the source. So let me just run by that real quick, and you correct me because my memory's fading.
You know, I got to interrupt you. It's funny because that's the deal that we tend to talk about a lot, but you seem to forget the other $1 million houses that we did, the ones in Chicago with the guy with the English accent and some of the craziness that surrounded that. For some reason, and I think it has something to do with Beverly, you are hell-bent. You are obsessed like a pit bull with this Las Vegas property.
Well, okay. Is it okay to tell who owned that house?
I mean, we could. It was one of the greatest basketball coaches of all time, a guy by the name of Lon Kruger. He is the head coach of Oklahoma University. Fantastic guy, the perfect kind of seller that you'd want to work with. And, you know, before we get into it, I'll just say, because I've had these conversations with some of your students, Ron, and a lot of people have asked about that deal because you present it quite frequently at the various meetings. But there's a real misconception that's out there that, and it's counterintuitive, but it is far easier to do deals on higher end homes than it is on lower end homes. And the reason for that is simple. The sellers already know they're not going to get screwed. There's no reason to have any mistrust. They check things out with the attorney, and if it makes sense, then and it works for them, then they're going to move forward. And they're just a lot more pleasant to deal with than people who think you're trying to scam them.
And in this market, they need us even more, because those really high-end houses are really going to slow down. They're the first ones to get hit. And the reason we'd want them is because we can offer terms. And they are more sophisticated. They get it. You don't have to explain it. They don't mind if we make a profit. In fact, I remember Lon saying directly while we were on the phone with him, because he said, what are you going to do with the house? We said, we're going to sell it for more than we're paying you for it. He said, God bless you. I hope you make a lot of money.
Yeah,
what he said.
They understand. A lot of these folks have these houses as second or third homes anyway, and maybe they just want their taxes and insurance covered. You know, they're somewhat indifferent. It's not like it's the biggest asset that they have, which makes them a lot more willing to do things in a way that actually produces more money for them on paper. All the people that say no to us, if you were to compare what they're going to get, because they're going to end up selling it with a realtor, if you compare what they're going to get by selling it within 30 days to what they actually get a year or two down the line, it's way more money. They get the full price. They get monthly money on top of that. We're really paying them for their patience. And at the end of the day, they're really happy about the way things went because you didn't line a realtor's pocket with $100,000 of commission.
So in this case, you know, we thought it was a $4 million house, turned out to be a $3.3 million house, but you finally put a lease option tenant buyer in there with a $150,000 deposit, and he actually did buy a year later, didn't he?
We screwed up bad. Or let me rewind.
We did.
I screwed up bad because you know what that house is listed for now, Ron?
No.
$6.7 million. You told me to close on it. I didn't want to close on it.
Yeah, and I said we ought to close on this one. Now, of course, they had a $16,000 a month payment on it. That might have persuaded us.
Yeah, it definitely did. That was going to be a little bit rough. You know, you come out of pocket because it's going to take a little bit longer, to be candid, to find the right buyer for that kind of a house. You might have to go with the vacancy for a couple, 2-3 months. Whereas on the bread and butter homes that are in the pretty neighborhoods just above the median price, there's just rarely a circumstance where you have to wait more than 30 days unless you get kind of greedy, or not greedy, unless you want to get a bigger down payment. But you can get $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, $30,000 down payments all day long within 30 days on the houses that you pick up in those kinds of neighborhoods. You move to higher end homes, you might have to wait a little bit more. So looking at that $16,000 a month payment scared me right out of my britches.
Yeah, but you know what? It didn't scare any of the buyers looking at the house because they were looking at a $4 million house.
Well,
it's actually cheap.
I can tell you the reason it didn't scare them, because the buyer that we ended up getting was a marijuana farmer. And the buyer that we ended up getting, he got one of the 5, this goes back, a couple years ago now. He got one of 5 licenses that were issued to among hundreds of applicants. The application fee alone was probably 6 figures. And he was granted one of the license to be one of the medical marijuana growers. And he fulfills orders for all of the local dispensaries. It's a cash business, but no bank was going to touch him. So he paid us a little bit of cash on the front end. And within a year, he cashed that thing out with cash, not with a bank loan.
Okay.
I wonder where he got that money. There was some good sensibility going around here.
Well, hey, you got a license for crying out loud.
No, I'm not criticizing. Look, drug dealers got to have a place to live too. I learned that lesson from you on a different house.
Yeah. And I remember, this is all of our listeners are not up to snuff on what we do. Okay. You put that thing under contract with 90 days to find the tenant buyer we wanted to put in the house, and with his full cooperation. We never intended to close on that house. We never intended to write him a check for $195,000 down. That's just what we negotiated. And we could have sold it with owner financing, or we could have sold it on a lease purchase. However, We had 90 days at no risk. Didn't find buyer in 90 days. Got another 90-day extension. Now, what happened when we tried to get the second 90-day extension?
We asked and we were granted an extension.
Yeah, but not without some work. In fact,
well, of course, there's going to be a little bit of concern, but you got to share the reality with them that we had a world-class marketing campaign, not without expense. And this isn't going to happen on the bread and butter homes. This is a unique situation. We're talking about a $4 million house here. There's just not that many buyers. I had ads in the Super Bowl locker room on the magazine that was given out to the NFL players in the Super Bowl that year. We were doing really everything we could. And we did have plenty of suitors, but not any that we really liked as much as the guy who ended up coming along. And let me color that in for you a little bit, Ron, for folks who may not be fully trained at this point. There's two things that you can do. Either you're going to get terms that you like so much that you're going to close on, or if you're nervous, or if you can't come up with the money to pay the closing costs for them, and you're worried about having to have a vacancy for a couple of months, then you just get a little bit longer of a term on the paperwork, 90 days, and you can go out to the market and get your buyer first and fund all your costs with that buyer's money. So in this case, because it was just so much money, I didn't want to close on it right away, but we could have. I mean, I think we had a good enough deal that we could have closed on it. But it made more sense to actually just get it under agreement and go out to the market and see what the market could bring. And those deals are out there by the thousands, because the main thing is you have to get the buyer to understand that, look, I love this house. It's a beautiful house. The pictures look fantastic. It's exactly the kind of house I want to buy. And there's a lot of benefit in it for you to sell it to me. One, you're going to get full price. Two, you don't have to pay a realtor commission. Three, I'll probably pay your closing costs for you. Four, I'm not going to be traipsing inspectors through. They're going to be nitpicking at this and that. We probably don't even have to have an appraiser come up because I don't need a bank loan on this thing. So, we can close whenever you're ready, but I just need one. You're not going to get all those benefits without some kind of trade-off. And the trade-off is very simple. Just a little bit of patience. But we'll pay you for that patience. So if you can have a little bit of patience, you get a lot more cash on this thing. And if you're willing to operate within that paradigm, then I'm your huckleberry. I'll come out and buy this thing. And if they say yes to that, then it's just a matter of negotiating the terms. If you don't like the terms, just get whatever terms they'll give you and go out to the market and see what the market brings and then renegotiate later.
Yes. And in this particular case, you actually did list the house because we couldn't get it sold on our own. What deal did you make with the realtor?
So
on commission?
Well, let me color it in. But the answer to that question is, when I put all houses in MLS, even ones with terms, it's an awesome source for terms buyers, believe it or not, which I can color in for you. But the way I work it with the realtors is, look, if you sell this house outright for cash, then you're going to get the normal co-op commission that's listed in there. And depending on the market, I'll go anywhere from 2 to 3%. Usually 3 because I don't want to be chintzy with them. I want them to show it. So I'll give them a 3% commission, but I let them know that, look, I don't have to be cashed out on this. I'll offer this with financing terms. I'll offer it as a lease purchase. So your job with those buyers, and I know you got a bunch of them. If you don't, just call your lenders that you work with and find out all the people that don't qualify anymore because they just lost their job. They got cash. Yeah. So bring a cash down payment to the table, and I'll give you the lesser of the 3% of the purchase price or 25% of the down payment, whichever is less. So you can make plenty of money on this thing. And
I do the same thing.
That's the way to do it. I've sold a number of houses that way, Ron, and the realtors love it, and they come back to you. They come back to you with buyers, and they even come back to you with sellers, especially the ones who have no equity.
Fast, easy sale for them. Why not?
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Joel, you have any kind of a staff or, well, what's your overhead look like?
My overhead is extremely low. We're talking all the normal things that you present in your basic course, which is, I have Pat Live take calls. I have a virtual assistant so that I don't have to get involved until I have a stack of yeses on my desk. And then the rest of my staff is ad hoc, meaning if I'm buying in another city, I'll just get boots on the ground to go do things for me, which is very easy to do. There's lots of people who want to go out and take photos, walk around a house with an iPad. be there for a FaceTime call, those kinds of things. So, I mean, honestly, there is, they say there's no business like show business. There's no business like the real estate business. You have like no overhead. It's almost pure profit. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I don't know why I don't even know why I'm messing around with healthcare, Ron. We got huge overhead. I got to pay for a clinical trial. I got to pay for scientists. I got to pay for peer review committees. And I haven't even made $1 yet. I just got money on paper.
Well, I had the same thing in the restaurant business. Like $100,000 a month just to break even.
Man, you dodged the bullet on that one, my man. You dodged the bullet on that one. I got to tell you, you talk about luck. You should get out here to Vegas, man, and just roll with that luck.
I sold it in September. Happy day. And we're going to come to Vegas as soon as we get it, as soon as they let us. That's Beverly's favorite place on earth.
Well, let us know. We'll have a VIP pool party here. But, Ron, I don't know. You don't wear a Speedo, do you?
No.
Okay. Well, then
you don't want to see me in a Speedo. No. Okay. All right. So, Joel, when how long have you been in Planet Ron? I don't remember.
Well, so I've got kind of an interesting journey, right? I started with you when you had your course back on 8-track.
No, you didn't.
Well, I guess it wasn't on 8-track, but it was definitely on cassette tapes. And
that's right.
I'll never forget it. I actually went through the Carlton Sheets course first, and I didn't really do anything. But then I listened to you. You had a little bit different style than Carlton did, and it really got me juiced up to go out and take action on the material that I had learned. There was some definite twists to that made a lot of sense. You could make money a lot faster with the quick turn method that you were presenting then. That's evolved a little bit. You can still make money very, very quickly on that. I went out and did a deal really the way you described it, and I made $30,000. And from there, if you didn't want to talk about real estate, you didn't want to talk to me. And but
I remember.
But then me and you didn't really meet personally and start working together until I don't know. I want to say maybe 7-8 years ago or so. But I've been with you since the early 90s.
I don't think it's been that long. So
I did a $25,000 mastermind with you. Which is something people need to understand is that the investment sometimes is difficult to make. In mentoring and in some of these courses, there's a little bit of paranoia about things. But I think some of the advice that's presented out there in the financial world, like Susie Orman, for example, God bless her, but you cannot save your way to wealth. You can't save your way to wealth. You're going to have to make an investment if you want to, live in a gigantic house with a great pool and a great neighborhood and be the kind of provider and have the kind of freedom that you want. And always bet on yourself. If you're willing to do the work, there's models that you can replicate. You do not have to recreate the wheel. This model's been proven for 30-some years. All you got to do is replicate it, and there's people out there that are willing to show you. So yeah, you got to make an expensive investment, but most people can earn that back on one little deal.
It's actually been proven a lot longer than that. I have a sales letter on my wall, and I was selling a real estate course for $29, and that was $1 a week, $2 down, 1909.
Well, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they spoke funny language back then.
P.T. Barnum? Who is the guru? Who is the guru?
All right. Well, what's the biggest obstacle you overcame when you got started, Joel? In fact, you're a mentor right now. I guess the biggest question is what do you see our students struggling with more than anything else when they get started?
Yeah, it's very, very clearly fear. And that's an underlying element. So the actual practical thing that they're not doing is making enough calls and perfecting the craft of making the calls. And that is born out of fear. That fear is overcome by going through the term system over and over and over again. It's not that you don't learn it the first time through, but I can guarantee you with almost 30 years of doing this now, Ron, with you, that I could go through that Pretty House term system and pick up all kinds of golden nuggets out of there if I went through the whole course again. So going through that and getting that foundation of understanding the concepts and what the alternatives are for sellers is critically important because it allows you to get on the phone and not have to think about what you're going to say next. You already know what the solution is because you've heard it a bunch of times. But it doesn't stop there. Go ahead.
Is there any question a seller could ask you can't answer?
Well, sometimes they do have some doozies, but they're not related to real estate.
Yeah. Or they're totally, are they just totally irrelevant?
Look, you can answer any question. It may not be the answer they want to hear, but look, you're not going to persuade anybody to sell their house to you, okay? You need to
They either are or they aren't.
clearly
That's
present
well
the
said.
alternative. Tell it like
Well
it is.
said.
Look,
Yep.
man, it's a crazy thing, but one of the things you said to me early on when you were coaching me on my phone skills was stop begging. Stop begging. Yeah. And there can be no truer words ever spoken, because look, they are the one with something for sale. They're the one with
Yep.
something for sale. So you are trying to determine if this is something you want to buy. You should be in the power position. And
correct.
And that's the biggest thing, is I think people think they got to sell them on something, or they got to manipulate or persuade, and it just couldn't be further from the truth.
Yeah.
If you clearly explain the benefits like I did a minute ago, kind of.
I remember when you started on that telephone.
Oh, here we go.
You sucked, man. I couldn't get you to shut up. Oh my God, you wanted to talk.
Listen,
it took some work.
If you haven't noticed, I still don't shut up. Train tells me every day, man, you got to shut up. There's times where she just closes her ears.
Well, all right. Okay. Can you share with me maybe a big stupid thing you did along the way?
Yeah, I mean, along the way, I've been very, very tempted. Luckily, it hasn't come back and well, okay, yeah, actually, now that I think about it, in the wholesaling rehabbing, you can get really good at that really quickly because it's actually pretty easy. There's not as much to it as the Pretty House system, and so I went out and I think I bought a house, and I just didn't do my due diligence on really looking at the repairs. I kind of eyeballed it. I had done a number of rehabs, and lo and behold, the house had mold and it needed to be jacked up and all kinds of things that I didn't notice because I was being a little bit too arrogant and cocky. But had I followed what's written in the course, which is to actually do, have an inspector go out there and actually give you a bona fide estimate of repairs. It doesn't have to be an inspector, but a contractor. I'm not a professional contractor, so I got a little greedy with that one and ended up losing a little bit of money on it. Not much, because I got a good price on it, but at the end of the day, I spent like 3 months on it and probably lost about 10 grand on it. If I would have followed the instructions, I either would have just assigned the contract to somebody who, could have rehabbed it for a little less than I did. But I didn't follow directions. So, it's up to you. Once you start making a lot of money, you stop caring a little bit less, and the loss, if there's any losses, it doesn't bother you because you got lots of deals in the pipeline. But if you want to do everything perfectly, then all you got to do is follow the checklist. But it's just not human nature. It's not human nature. You get cocky. Look at baseball players. They're awesome hitters, but what happens? They get cocky, and then the pitchers have their way with them.
That's true.
I think you might have got a little cocky at one point in your career, from what I understand.
Never.
All those planes and jets and flight attendants catering to your every need.
That's not cocky. Come on. What are you going to do with money if you can't buy stupid stuff with it?
I hear you.
I'm going to get in my 41-foot fifth wheel tomorrow and head north.
I hope you have a good cleaning crew. I don't know where you're getting the Lysol and the wipes from.
I'm going offshore fishing with Jay Connor.
Oh, now that sounds like a blast. Now that's going to be a laugh a minute right there with Jay Connor.
Yeah, he's something.
He's one of the, he's one of the people I like more than anybody else in the world. He's just a fantastic person.
How could you not like?
Nothing not to like.
Well, I am going to turn you loose and let you get back to work. It looks like the sun's about to blur you out there anyway. So always a pleasure. We appreciate your participation here. And also appreciate the work you're doing with our students. We get rave reviews.
The feeling's mutual, Ron. Love you very much. You've been instrumental in my life. I'm so glad that I bought your course. I'm so glad that I studied it. I'm so glad that I've gone to a bunch of events and learned so much. There's always something new. And you are truly the godfather of real estate, and I'll never forget it. And anything you ever need from me, just holler. Holler at your boy.
Thank you, sir.
Peace.
Appreciate it. Always fun talking to Joel. Okay.